Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Hello, everybody. This is Nick from the Phoenix Press, and welcome to Rewatch, where we are covering Avatar: The Last Airbender. Joining me, as always, is the new face on the ground, Jared. How you doing?
I'm not a new face. I've been here before. How are you?
Pretty good. I got a bit of a handful with me. I got my buddy Courage here with me because we're kind of talking about something to do with animals and pets. So I wanted to have my buddy here with me. We are talking about Appa's Lost Days, which I consider to be the saddest episode of the series.
Yeah, to a certain degree, yeah, it is the saddest one that at least I've watched so far.
What was your initial takeaway from this episode?
Like, the show really knows how to hammer in those emotional beats that make you really care about these characters, and it really knows how to deal with complex and very sensitive issues in a respectful way.
So basically, the gist of this episode is obviously for the past few episodes, Appa's been missing. He was taken by the Sandbenders, and now we're kind of finding out what Appa's been up to. Like, that's why this is called Appa's Lost Days, and it's almost entirely without dialogue. I mean, obviously there's dialogue, but it's not the main focus. It is like Appa's story. Like, it is told entirely from Appa's perspective, and the animators did a really good job of saying what goes on in his head and whatnot.
And here's the thing: I could almost hear Appa speaking. So in other words, there was dialogue. It just wasn't like oral dialogue.
Yeah, one thing I really like is the show does a really good job of time stamping. Like, oh, they're going by the serpent's pants. It kind of helps you show okay, this is where it takes place within these episodes. It does a really good job.
Yeah, it does.
Obviously, it shows people noticing. So, Jared, you notice how they passed by the water tribe ship?
I did.
So, did you recognize the guy on that ship?
No, I did not. Who is that? Remind me.
You'll find out. Trust me, you'll see.
There were a few characters in this I definitely recognized.
So, what was probably the saddest part for you?
See, the part that really tugged on my heartstrings is where you see Appa and Aang's first meeting, and then Aang's like, "I guess we'll always be together."
Yeah, they really did kind of do the lore, because an Airbender and a Sky Bison, they bond for life, and it's kind of
like Han Solo and Chewie.
Pretty much. I mean, Chewie is basically the dog of the Star Wars universe. So
yes, he's basically the Appa.
All right, he clearly wants to go on my shirt. So Courage.
So can I call him Choppa? Come on, Nick. I gotta bring in the humor for this episode.
Someone has to, I guess. Yeah, and this episode is kind of hard for me to watch in a good way, because animals mean a lot to me. Like, I'm a big animal guy, and honestly, Appa is just like a big dog. Like, he very much acts like a dog, and it's really hard for me to watch scenes of dogs or dog-like animals getting abused, because I equate Appa with a dog, because dogs are the loyalty, they give you unconditional love, and they just want to be there for you, and to have that innocence abused like that is I'm sorry.
It's all good. Well, interesting fact that in March of 2007, this episode won a Genesis Award from the Humane Society in the category Outstanding Child's Programming, because it described it as a mythical tale about animals held captive for human entertainment that resonates with the way animals are abused in the circuses.
Yeah. And we'll get to that angle later. I'm just kind of like in a bit of a mood right
But which
now.
again, this always gets down to what I always say about these shows, comic books, or something like that is that it's a kids show, but it deals with very adult topics and concepts. Because yes, you
Yeah.
could take this as a straight up just adventure story. Appa trying to get back to Aang and having this really messed up adventure. But then you could also take a deeper step in there and say, is this episode trying to tell me something about animals?
Yeah, and Avatar has kind of made it a habit of like tackling these complex, both political, moral issues, and honestly handling it with more grace than you see a lot of adult media, both then and now. Like we're talking about like animal rights abuse and like animal abuse and whatnot. How many times have you seen a show try to tackle animal abuse and they just totally mess it up? Like they go way too ham-fisted, they beat you over the head with the message.
I
I think with
will remember you. That's
if
a
you
bit
start
ham
singing,
fisted.
if you start singing "Arms of the Angel," I am literally leaving this episode. This stream.
Yeah.
I'm
All
literally,
right. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about
no. Sarah McLachlan is not welcome.
it. But the one other time this topic has been addressed and used well is actually Guardians of the Galaxy 3, because you see Rocket's origin in that one, and it's very much tied to that.
Yeah, those scenes hit hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We'll kind of tippy toe over the James Gunn topic because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
That raccoon hole, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. But so speaking of the shows, Catwoman showed up, the Female Fury showed up.
We had another Arnie Roth showed up.
Mm-hmm.
He's like he was the ringmaster.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I'm sure you recognize the voice.
Yes, I did 100%.
Like he shows up in a lot of video games.
I
remember him as Laura's mentor in Tomb Raider 2013. That's where I think it was at first.
Another cool thing that I saw was when we see Suki and her little warriors, how like their fans turn to shields. I was like, oh, that's cool.
So, thank you for bringing it up, because I wanted, like, that's probably my favorite section of the episode. Like, remember how I said Suki would return?
Yeah.
By the way, she will return.
Again, she will keep returning.
See, it'll be a bit of a slow boil, but I promise, when she does, she will rock your world.
So what you're telling me is somehow Suki returned.
Also, all the Avatar fans are throwing tomatoes at the screen for my really bad pun I just did. Now you have no clue. You have no clue what I did.
Even the comics. I got news for you, Avatar fans. On my show, we throw tomatoes at them all the time. So you're in good company.
I practically bathe in tomato soup every time I go on the show. So.
Yeah, exactly. But
anyway, so
action
like,
was fantastic in this one.
No. Mm-hmm. I want to kind of talk about the Suki section for a little bit longer. This is probably my favorite section of the show, because honestly, anytime Suki's on screen, I'm happy, because like I love Suki as a character. But like what it is like Appa has been having such a bad time, and he finally gets some respite for like some people who actually care about him, and like the way the Kyoshi warriors put their life on the line, the fact that like they defend Appa without a second's hesitation, and I love how Appa tries to go back and help him, and Suki's like, no, find Aang. Like, that just shows how good of a person Appa is. It's like he needs to find Aang, but he like wants to go back and help these people that helped him. That is why Appa is just such a pure-hearted soul that like I want to protect at all costs.
Yeah, I like that. I also, one of my favorite Appa scenes in this episode is when he sucks in the cart that has the food. He like draws it closer because it was left out of reach. So he's like,
so that's the thing. Like Appa is like he's most like he's a Sky Bison, acts like a dog, but he has some cat tendencies. Because like I'm sorry, but like that would be a very cat thing to do.
Yeah, exactly. And it's super cool. I like that moment. Yeah, and here's the thing. Again, this episode, you could understand what Appa was saying without subtitles or anything anyone was saying, because there was enough like visual cues that that's why I said no, there was actually a crap ton of dialogue in this. It's just there wasn't anyone speaking.
Also, you notice how he was like in a Fire Nation circus, but like, and they showed like the kid was like a good-hearted kid, and like the dad was just he's kind of a butt, but he's still just a dad, you know. It's another one of those things where like they show the Fire Nation as just people, you know, because it would be very easy to make all the Fire Nation people just evil, snarling, whatever. But like they put, yeah, pretty much.
I noticed that kid looked kind of like Aang.
Yeah, in fact, they kind of went there when like he was laughing, and they had that flashback where like the kid like very much reminded him of Aang.
I like to think that was intentional. Like, show okay, so this is a good person.
Yeah, and the dad even himself, like he was a bit of a butt, but like not like mustache twirling evil, you know. He's his dad, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, oh, and then the fight between like the other warriors. I will say one criticism I have is there's kind of like a line that Ty Lee says when she does her chi blocking, and she's like, "You are not prettier than I am." It's like it's kind of cringe. Like,
it's random. It's random. I'm like, what the hell did that come from? No one even said that.
Like Mai's dialogue like fits in with the scene fine. Like what she says, that's fine. But like Ty Lee, it's like. Also, like I really love the lead up to the fight where Azula says a Nick level pun, and they actually lampshade it like, "Ah, you're so funny."
Yeah, I know. Immediately, I thought of you, and I'm like, good God, Nick's gonna bring this up.
So yeah, I love how it's like the episodes where we really love. We have like the least to say about them. So what are your kind of overall thoughts on this episode?
Really solid, really solid. The action, I enjoyed the action, except for that one line, because yeah, I do agree that came absolutely out of nowhere. I'm like, the hell. But it was pretty cool, and it's really a good background origin episode for Appa to show like how he and Aang first met and all that. It's a good context episode.
What rating would you give it?
10 out of 10.
I would give it a 9.5, mostly because that Ty Lee line does kind of really take me out of it.
Okay, so I'm going to give it a 9.75 because of that.
I mean, you can make it a 10. You don't have to agree with me.
No, because that one line, yeah, it's not perfect. So 9.75. It's close to perfect, but not perfect. It's got one tiny blemish.
So we are marching towards the finale here, and the next episode is going to be Secrets of Lake Logai. This is a really good episode. There's a really good scene between Zuko and Iroh. It's kind of like one of the most important decisions that Zuko has to make through his career that will actually pay forward in season 3. And I can't wait for you guys to see it. Jared, thank you. And before I go, kind of getting him out, Courage. Also, is a big Avatar fan. So it's with me. And yeah, so this has been Nick from the Phoenix Press. And remember, I can only show you the door. You're the one to walk through it.